If you've saved carefully for 30 years, you've probably imagined what retirement will feel like. Calm, in control, not checking the market every morning. But here's what most people don't realize until they're already in it. Having enough money isn't the same as having the right structure. And one quiet structural mistake can turn a solid retirement into a reactive one. A retirement where you're always responding to something instead of just living. In this video, I'm going to show you 6 assets that create something I think of as insulation. Not insulation from risk, because no one can promise you that. Insulation from panic, from having to make a major financial decision at the worst possible moment. These 6 things won't make headlines. They won't show up on most retirement checklists, but the retirees who have them in place, they sleep differently than the ones who don't. Stay with me, because the last 2 on this list are the ones most people overlook completely, and they might be the most important. My name is Clara Morgan, and I'm here to help you build a retirement that stays calm when the world doesn't. Let's start simple, with something inexpensive that almost no one talks about. It's called a personal liability umbrella policy. You might see it abbreviated as a PLUP, and I promise this one is easier than it sounds. Here's what it does. You already have homeowners insurance and auto insurance, right? Those policies cover you up to a certain limit. But if something serious happens, a car accident where you're at fault, someone who slips and falls in your home, the damages can exceed those limits quickly. A liability umbrella policy sits on top of your existing coverage. Think of it literally as an umbrella, held over everything you already have. For somewhere between $100 and $300 a year, you can add $1 to $2 million of additional protection. That's not a typo. A few $100s a year for $1 million of coverage. Now, why does this matter so much in retirement specifically? Because in retirement, you have assets. You have a home, you have investment accounts, you have decades of savings, and all of that is now visible to anyone who might decide to sue you. A liability lawsuit doesn't care how old you are or how carefully you've saved. It goes after what you have. Here's the other piece. For many people, their home isn't just where they live, it's a contingency plan. It might be what funds a downsizing strategy later. It might be what pays for home care if that need ever arises. Your home is doing important work in your retirement plan. Protecting it matters. An umbrella policy takes a potentially catastrophic legal risk and turns it into a fixed, predictable, small annual cost. That's exactly what we want more of in retirement. Here's something most people overlook. This might be the simplest asset on this list to put in place. One phone call to your insurance agent. Okay, let's talk about something that affects almost every household I know of, and it's so quiet that most people don't even notice it's missing. Most retirees have 2 money buckets. Bucket 1, the traditional IRA or 401k. This is your income engine. Every dollar you pull from it is fully taxable, dollar for dollar. It's where most of your monthly retirement income comes from. Bucket 2, the Roth IRA. This is your long-term growth account. You probably invested it more aggressively. Maybe you'll spend it later in life or leave it to your family. Every dollar that comes out is tax-free. Here's the problem. Life doesn't fit neatly into those 2 buckets. What about the new roof? The car you didn't plan on replacing this year? The chance to help a child with a down payment? The trip you've dreamed about for 20 years? If the only tool you have is the traditional IRA, every one of those expenses costs you more than the price tag because every dollar you pull out triggers ordinary income taxes. This is where a taxable brokerage account comes in. Think of it as the middle account, the one between money I need today and money I'm growing for later. A taxable brokerage account, that simply means an investment account outside of an IRA or retirement plan, is flexible in ways that retirement accounts are not. When you sell something inside it, you're typically taxed only on the gain, not the full amount. And those gains, if you've held the investment for more than a year, are often taxed at lower rates than your regular income. That's the plain version. You usually owe less tax on money from this account than from your IRA. Fidelity and Vanguard both offer taxable brokerage accounts with no minimums to open. If you don't have this middle bucket yet, it's worth building it up in the years before retirement with any extra cash you have available. This is your save trigger moment. The three bucket system is something worth sharing with your advisor before you retire. Which of these three buckets do you already have in place, and which one might be missing from your plan? This next one isn't something you buy at all. It's something most of us already have, but the timing decision around it is one of the most consequential moves in all of retirement planning. I'm talking about Social Security, and specifically about the decision of when to start taking it. According to the Social Security Administration, your benefit grows for every year you delay past your full retirement age, all the way up to age 70. We're talking roughly 6 to 8% more per year of delay. And that larger benefit is also inflation adjusted, meaning it keeps pace with rising costs over time. Now, here's what I really want you to hear. That higher benefit doesn't just mean more money, it means something structural. If you're married, the larger of your two Social Security benefits becomes the survivor benefit, the check that keeps coming after one of you passes. Delaying the higher earner's benefit is one of the most powerful ways to protect the surviving spouse's income for the rest of their life. So instead of asking, how do I get my money as soon as possible, the better question is, how does this benefit fit into a 30-year retirement plan? Most people are thinking about income for next year. This decision is about income into your 80s and 90s. That's the shift worth making, from when do I collect to how does this protect both of us for the long run? This is where I encourage you to talk to your financial advisor or use the SSA's own retirement estimator at ssa.gov. It shows you exactly what your benefit looks like at different starting ages. This might surprise you. Delaying Social Security, even by 2 or 3 years, can add tens of thousands of dollars to a household's total lifetime income. We're at the halfway point, and this is the one I want you to really sit with. It's called the Retirement Runway, and I think it's the most important structural asset on this entire list. Here's the problem that most retirement plans don't solve. When you're working, a bad year in the market is uncomfortable, but you're still depositing money. The market falls, you keep contributing, and eventually it recovers. When you're retired, that dynamic flips completely. Now you're pulling money out of your portfolio every single month. And if the market drops hard in your first few years of retirement, before your portfolio has had a chance to grow, the damage is disproportionate. You're selling at low prices to fund your lifestyle, which means fewer shares left to recover when the market bounces back. This is called sequence of returns risk. And according to research from Vanguard, 2 retirees with identical portfolios and identical returns over 30 years can end up with dramatically different outcomes, simply because of when the bad years hit. The retirement runway is the answer. The idea is simple. Set aside 24 to 60 months of living expenses in stable, accessible accounts before you retire. Not in addition to an emergency fund. This is a separate, deliberate pool. It might include a money market account, short-term bonds, and intermediate-term bonds. This pool isn't trying to earn you outsized returns. It's buying you something more valuable in retirement. Time. When the market drops, and at some point it will, you know exactly where next month's income is coming from, and the month after that, and the year after that. You don't have to sell anything at a loss. You don't have to make a panicked decision. You just keep living. Let me show you what this actually looks like. Imagine it's 2022. The stock market has dropped significantly. The news is loud and scary. A retiree with a runway in place looks at their stable cash accounts and thinks, I've got 3 years covered. I don't need to touch my equities. I'll wait. A retiree without a runway, they're selling stock funds at the low to pay their electric bill. Reactivity in retirement is expensive. The runway is what prevents it. Do you already have a number in mind for how many months of expenses you'd want in a stable account before retiring? Let's talk about something that genuinely surprised me when I first looked at the numbers. Most people think about their home as a place to live. But if you're confident it's your forever home, it might be one of the most important investments you make in all of retirement. Not by upgrading the kitchen, by making it the kind of home you can stay in independently for as long as possible. Here's the number that puts this in context. Assisted living in the United States costs an average of $4,500 per month. That's over $50,000 a year, according to AARP. Now think about what $10,000 in home modifications might do for you. Curbless showers, grab bars in the bathroom, lever-style door handles instead of round knobs, better lighting or motion-activated lights, moving the laundry from the basement to the main floor, reinforced railings. None of these are dramatic. None of them look institutional, but each one reduces the risk of a fall or removes a physical obstacle that becomes harder to manage as we age. If $10,000 in modifications lets you stay in your home even one additional year instead of moving to assisted living, that's a $50,000 return on a $10,000 investment. That's a 5-to-1 return. Most investments don't come close, and that's before we even account for the fact that you'd rather be home. This is an asset worth investing in as early as possible because the modifications that are easiest to make today become harder and more urgent if you wait until you actually need them. Here's a simple way to think about it. Every dollar you spend keeping yourself in your home is a dollar you don't have to spend on someone else's. We've covered 5 structural assets, and every one of them matters. But this last one is the one that makes all the others work, your physical durability. I know this doesn't sound like a financial topic, but stay with me because the connection is direct. Here's something most retirement plans don't factor in. As we age, we naturally lose muscle mass. There's actually a medical name for it, sarcopenia. It's the gradual loss of muscle that begins in our 40s and accelerates if we don't actively work against it. According to research published in the Journal of Cachexia, Sarcopenia, and Muscle, the average person who doesn't engage in strength training loses somewhere between 1 and 3% of their muscle mass per year after age 50. Here's why that's a retirement planning problem. Loss of muscle mass is one of the strongest predictors of loss of independence as we age. It's linked to falls, it's linked to mobility loss, it's linked to the need for outside care earlier than you would otherwise need it. And every year of independence that you preserve is a year your financial plan works the way it was designed. The investment here is surprisingly modest. Resistance bands, a single kettlebell, a few sessions a month with a personal trainer for accountability. These aren't luxury expenses, they are retirement plan expenses. Here's an extra step worth taking. Look into a DEXA scan or in-body scan in your area. These are body composition scans that measure your actual lean muscle mass. They typically cost around $20. Done once or twice a year, they give you real data, not a guess, about whether the exercise you're doing is actually working. That's real information that most people never get. If you're currently losing 2 or 3% of your muscle per year, and consistent resistance training brings that down to 1%, that difference, compounded over 20 years, is enormous. It shows up in your energy, in your independence, and in how long your retirement plan can sustain you. Investing in your health span is investing in your financial lifespan. The two are not separate. This is the shareable line, and I mean it completely. The length of time your retirement plan works depends partly on how long your body does. Let me bring this back to where we started. We started with a question. What's the difference between a retirement that feels calm and one that feels reactive? It's not returns, it's structure. The 6 assets we've covered today, liability protection, the middle account, Social Security strategy, the retirement runway, aging in place modifications, and your physical durability, they are 6 layers of insulation. Each one puts more distance between you and a moment where you'd have to make a major decision at the worst possible time. Here's the simplest version of what I want you to take away from this video. You don't need a perfect retirement plan. You need one that can absorb a bad year or a bad health event or a market drop or an unexpected expense and keep going without asking you to panic. That's what this list builds. If today's video sparked something for you, a gap you want to close, an asset you don't yet have, I'd encourage you to bring this list to your next conversation with a financial advisor, or share it with your spouse, or just write down the one or two items that felt most relevant to where you are right now. Which of these 6 assets do you already have, and which one are you most motivated to put in place first? Tell me in the comments. If this was helpful, consider saving this video to come back to. And if you haven't already, I'd love for you to subscribe. I make these videos because this stuff genuinely matters, and I want you to have the information you need.